Hey, hi, welcome back to my tutorial. Today in this video, we will be discussing briefly about Singleton Design Pattern. What is Singleton Design Pattern? It is a creational design pattern which is used to create a single instance of a class. Think like you have a connection manager with a basic configuration that will connect to the multiple database. When multiple threads are trying to access the database through the connection manager, each and every thread will have its own instance of the connection manager. Since a connection manager is common to connect to multiple database, there is no need to have a separate instance for each and every thread. To avoid that, Singleton will use as a single instance to the each and every thread that are trying to access a database. What are the usage of Singleton design pattern? Singleton design pattern is mostly used in multi-threaded and database application. It is used in logging, caching, thread pool, and configuration settings, etc. How can we create a singleton design pattern? A class must contain a static member. It gets a memory only once because of the static, and it contains an instance of a singleton class. It should have a private constructor which will prevent the instantiation of the singleton from outside the class. Static method. It is a global point of access to the singleton object and returns the instance to the caller. There are two ways that you can able to achieve the singleton design pattern. Early instantiation, which will create an instance at the load time. Lazy instantiation, which will create an instance when required. That will be using synchronized block, that is double checked locking or synchronized method. What are the advantage of singleton design pattern? Singleton design pattern will save the memory because object is not created at each request. Only one instance is reused again. Let us put that into the coding example so that you will get a clear understanding on that. Now I have opened Eclipse and I was created two different files. One is manager, another one is singleton class file. Let us implement the singleton design pattern in singleton class file. For that, we need a static member which will hold the instance of the singleton class. Private constructor will prevent the instantiation of the singleton from the outside class. Static method will return back the singleton class to the callers. Private static singleton class. Let me specify the name, object name. Now we are going to use the early instantiation of the singleton design pattern, which will create an instance at the load time. For that, here I'm going to use a new keyword to create the instance of the singleton class. New singleton class. Private. Let me provide the sysout here to verify how many times the instance has been created. Public static. It will return back a singleton class, right? Singleton class. Let me specify with the name of getInstance, and it will return back the object name. Now from the manager file, I'm going to call the singleton class. Singleton class. Singleton class. Since the constructor is private, we can't able to call this constructor from outside the class, but we can able to access this get instance because of the public modifier, and this is a static method. For that, singleton dot get instance. Let me run this program. See, only one instance has been created. Let me duplicate this line and run this program. So how many times I was calling the singleton class, only one instance has been created. Now there is a problem with the early instantiation of singleton design pattern. What is that? What if this object is not in use? Since it's the early instantiation of singleton design pattern, the object is being created in a memory which is not used. To avoid that, we will need to go for the lazy instantiation of the singleton design pattern. For that, I'm going to remove this one. From this public static singleton get instance method, I'm going to check the object is null or not. If it is equals to null, then I'm going to create the object. Now again I'm going to run this manager of class. Now the same single instance has been created. This is all fine. What suppose we are going to work in a multi-threaded concept? Let me create a thread T1 is equal to new thread, new runnable, and let me create one more thread. I'm going to start these two threads simultaneously. T2 dot start. Let me run this program. Sorry. We are going to call the singleton class here. Singleton for Vijay equals to singleton class dot get instance. Similarly, in a thread 2, and let me run this program. What happens? Now we have specified the private constructor, but even though it was creating the two instance for two separate threads. To handle that, we are going to use a synchronized method here. For that, I'm going to synchronize. The synchronized keyword will help us to avoid the multiple thread getting access to the get instance method. It will restrict only one thread to get into this method and another thread will be in a wait state. Once the first thread is entered and will check this condition and it will get the instance of the singleton class. Well, after completion of its work of the first thread and second thread is going to enter into this get instance method. Now the instance of the object is already instantiated. Now the same object is going to return back to the thread 2. Let me save the singleton class and let me run this program. Now only one instance has been created, right? So there is a problem with this synchronized method. Think like the get instance method will have the lot of resource needs to be taken care. So in this case, when you're using the synchronized method, it will consume a lot of time to execute this one because only one thread is allowed inside this method. To avoid that one, we are going to use the double checkered locking method. For that, let me remove this one. I'm going to use a synchronized block here. Synchronized. The synchronized block is expecting the object here. That is singleton class dot class. This is a double checked one. Object name double equals to null. If it is equals to null, I'm going to create an instance of a singleton class and return back and I was assigning to the singleton object. I mean object name. So what will happen when multiple thread is going to access? There is no restriction to get into this method. So the two threads at the simultaneously is going to be get into here, and it will check this object is null or not. If it is equal to null, it will get into this synchronized block, which will allow so only one thread to access that. So when one thread is going to access, again you are going to check this object is null or not. If object is equals to null, then we are going to create this instance of a singleton class. So once the object is instantiated and the second thread is going to access here, now the object since the object is instantiated, the same instance of the object is going to return back to the thread 2. Let me save this one and run this application. Now only one instance has been created. Hope you got a clear understanding in a singleton design pattern. If you like this video, click a like button and do subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Thank you.